Derivatives trading involves a substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. Good morning. I'm gonna pull up. I'm gonna pull up the link here first. I'm so serious today. Okay. Well, in the overnight, some puzzling action. Here yesterday, again, very range bound, kind of sucked. And what happened? We moved up. But we failed to extend beyond this period, and we came back down. And then we had another push up that failed. You can see, though, it wasn't like a huge move up or anything. So fairly range bound overnight. But and again, we've got this area of business. Okay, this area between 13 and 10 or 11 has had biggies back and forth all the time, and we're back to where we were. I believe that if we start to see signs of weakness, that we could break out. The last big move was down. They've had a very hard time pushing any higher than that, and I also kind of see the market structure has changed a little bit. We don't have this big set of orders below us. We don't have this stuff above us in ZB. At least not from what we can see. So yeah, I do think that we might see that. Let's see here. We do have some news today, but my recollection is nothing huge, right? Got some FOMC speakers later today in the beige book, but nothing in the morning release. So this could be one of those days. It's going to be super tricky. I also saw here, Trade the Traders says he had a trade on. What has he got? Oh, he's short from 120.20. How did he pick that? Oh, it's a limit order. So he thinks that we're going to break the overnight high and he's going to fade it. That's what he's doing. Oh, no. He's long. I take that back. I'm sorry. He says that he's long at 120.12. 12.5. Now the E-mini has continued higher, but it looks like it's coming back a little bit. Currency moves overnight a little bit lower. So this thing seems to be confused. That's all I can say. Xion's it's confused. Hmm. I don't know. I've seen action like yesterday. I've seen action where, we come down and we hit and they just stop it dead in its tracks. Okay. Wow. 698? Okay. Gonna take a few bites here. Let's see how this turns out. That down tick was, it ticked down really easily, but now it's balanced there. So I'm not so sure about this. Hmm. Flipped. Not much trade there. Okay, that 12 half has firmed up a little bit. The 5 year seems to be dropping, but not on a ton of volume. Okay, it's firming up even more.
Alligator said agree.
Okay, well, I liked that tick. I don't like
Alligator said smiling face with open mouth.
I don't like that 2379 was there to catch it. Don't like that because that number right there, because that might be an indication that there's support below us again, and that we start, if we break the low, they're gonna show up again, and it's gonna be all nasty and sticky. Is that the right word? Like wading through sludge. Okay, well, the longer it stays down here with not a lot of volume trading through, the more likely I think that it has to go through. So this can kind of go one of two ways, right? One is it comes down, we're auctioning down, and it slows down, and they decide that nobody is interested in selling it anymore, and so it turns around. But when you get it at the very beginning of the day like this, it kind of starts to become, hey, these longer term guys, the longer it stays down here, the less confident they get. And they start, dumping
Tucker
it.
said IMO overall range bound, not enough catalyst it appears to break recent highs/lows. Expecting range bound like Y-day morning, buy lows and sell highs. Jack said I agree. Heath said GM.
So Tucker has a good point, for sure. I mean, based on the most recent action that we've had and what we did yesterday, and the fact that even though we've had two pretty strong ticks down and we're sitting at the low of the day, we had to trade through 2,000 and 3,000 to do so. There is a decent probability scenario that we remain range bound, even if we break the overnight low here, because we really have from yesterday, 10. So 2 ticks lower. You notice that there isn't any big order at 11. It's because the overnight low is 10. Well, I mean, yesterday's low was 10, and they don't really think that the overnight low matters. And between 10 and 8, you could start to see the support. So there's an uptick. ZF did not take out the low of the day or even touch it. That uptick, strong uptick, says to me that we
Jack
are going
said
to be
that
range
also
bound.
suggests there's someone willing to sell.
Yeah. I can see it going either way.
Tucker said doesn't feel like the right time/flow for a break.
No, it really doesn't. Maybe if we tick down again, but
Tucker said nobody buying the 11.5s, Suyuwa upper slow market.
Okay, so here's the key decision point, right? We've got a big iceberg here. So somebody is definitely playing the it still can't get past 10. Some flow there. So we now have new players short. Also, here in ZF it looks weak. Let's reset it.
Tucker said huh. Tucker said how do you know? Jack said not everybody is trading in this manner, most are probably not. Tucker said iceberg equals favorable action.
They didn't read that correctly because it doesn't read the exclamation point equals sign is not. But Tucker's saying an iceberg is not favorable action, and I would agree with him. Except for that we ticked through it. So if we tick up again, then I think we have to get out. But I'm generally going to say that if you have a really slow move down, okay? We come down to key level 10. Somebody's going to play the edge and is going to say it's going to reverse, right? And on the other hand, if you were long, let's say you were long from 120 or 125 before it broke, and it gets down to 110 and you see an iceberg, are you going to get out there? No, at least I wouldn't. I would wait and see if it, maybe even they tick through it and they tick back up and it holds. So I would be kind of holding. That's why I'm going to guess.
Tucker said we aren't trading tens though yet, And the ZN is
No.
definitely the kind of market where somebody would wait for their exact price to step up.
So I'm going to guess that the trades probably on both sides of that 11 were new trades. Now, the problem is that doesn't necessarily give you like a predictive edge per se. It just tells us that whichever way it resolves itself from here, it's likely to move away from it. So if we tick up from 115, pretty good probability that we're going to go back to at least the VWAP, if not lower. If we tick back down, they could iceberg again. But if we tick back down and then we're able to tick through 10.5, then you have 5,000 contracts that have to unwind the other way. So it's kind of like the way I would look at it is an iceberg there does not improve our probability, but it does improve our reward if it goes through. Big if. I'm gonna have to say now that it's iceberg debt. I mean, there was 5K at 11, and there was, or at 11.5, and now there was 5K at 11. Machine gun hitting that 11.5. I think there's still a decent probability I get filled, actually. At the moment, though, the action definitely looks like seems to support the range-bound hypothesis more. Okay, so we got filled, and there was a pretty big offer with it, but they're still holding on the lows, so okay, well, I guess I shouldn't have gotten out, huh?
Jack said, yeah, I like that analysis. Alligator said, seems not over to me. Short end leading, and margin for more, starting to look like end of a consolidation swing scale. Alligator said, ZT breaking S1.
Wow. Do you see that? ZF ticked up and nobody put a bid. It's
Tucker
like
said bid 105s.
it's been a long time since I've seen a gap.
Tucker said really only risking one. If that 7k bid at 10s bails, I'm out too.
I don't know. I think it's going to go lower today, but it does kind of feel like they need to come back a little bit. Especially, you see all this kind of disorganized volume here in ZF. Disorganization is not helpful for a continuation of the move down. Now this is kind of curious because there was a level break set up here at 10.5. They're not doing it a second time. The number of orders here at 10 is now increasing. And ZF is just not in position. I mean, you would prefer them to all be at their lows. You would prefer them to be next to the big order too. And even though there was a level break set up the first time, now this area seems to be more like balance. Another thing I find interesting is that we've seen big orders through this area, and we kind of ticked down through it. Was not that interesting to them. This reminds me a lot of the failed breakout yesterday. Because we came down, I had a good trade going for me, and but at that time I was still holding, you know, and to see if the 10 would break, and then, you know, it firmed up and there was like 7k there. Okay, now that was a little different because this time they ticked down and it's pulled a little bit. Whoa. And now ZF is kind of getting in position now. Or at least trying to. Okay, they did it.
Tucker said managed to bail for -1. Tucker said ZN10s were bid for 8K, hold to 4K, I said LOL and clicked out.
Yeah, man, you got lucky because, well, you're fast. What can I say? He's fast. But, oh, jeez. I'm probably not going to get filled here now at this point. I think I'm higher in the queue than 1305, aren't I? Because I was like at 13 when it was 5. Anyways, whoa. Okay, so I expected there to be kind of backwash here. That was pretty impulsive, the way it did it. I like this for one tick. This is a spot where you could see a lot of volume trade between these two prices. Anyways, you know, the way that it was setting up with the level break, that easily could have been a stop run. So, combination of a little bit of luck and Tucker just being so good at being fast. I just can't take those. Like if I had taken that trade and I was long at 10.5, I might still be in it.
Tucker said hang on if you're short near lows thinking it could be a level break, why are you bidding to exit at +1?
Why am I bidding to exit at +1? Because I have a signal. It's hard to explain this one, but when you get to a node like this, there's a high probability that a lot is going to trade at both prices. Well, now that it's a 7K iceberg, I might pull it, actually. Holy crap. No, chances are 5,000 is going to trade at 9.5.
Tucker said R seems pretty inverted IMO. Why not shoot for 3+ on this trade if you're risking 4?
Oh, I'm definitely not risking 4. We're risking break even or -1 at the most. It's actually interesting. I haven't seen a spot, or at least I haven't played a spot like this in a long time. And this one is a little interesting just because there's so much trading here, but this is like a 70% probability trade actually. Holy crap. Whoa. I mean, I want to keep it just to prove to you that I can get filled, but I feel like I should pull it.
Tucker said somebody really had a spread to get on at tens.
Right? As soon as this ZF ticks down, I mean, what is this going to be like a 12, 15K? At this point, it's probably going to be at least 12.
Tucker said Seth, if 11K just traded at your entry price and it didn't lift, why would you want to bail for +1? Somebody just got filled short in a major way down here.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point that so as an explanation, the trade is that when you come to a spot and you see a high level 2 on both sides, which we saw there for a moment, and it doesn't just like immediately go through, then there's a pretty good probability that you can get filled on both sides of that area. And the side that you want to take is going to be based on the trend and where the last interest area was. The last interest area that we had was 10.5, and we're 2 ticks away from that, so that doesn't really help us too much, but we have had a trend down, so that's why I took it short. Obviously, you could have, if I had bought first and then sold, then I probably would have gotten out already. But and I want to, for discipline's sake, I want to stick to the original trade idea, because when I took this, there was not a 10K. Okay, well, now this is lifting. I mean, come on, wow. But Tucker has a great point that now that there's been 10K absorbed against the flow,
Tucker said been about a month and a half since I've seen 10K and trade at a single level. Usually it's at a puke point high or low, not with the trend.
Is it going to be a 15? There you go. I actually had a better position in the queue than Jigsaw told me. Isn't that interesting?
Tucker said and it lifts. Interesting to see the reaction now.
Oh yeah. Well, I think in a situation like that, not, I mean, it doesn't always happen this way, but I've noticed that when you get an iceberg like that, there's a really good chance that they're going to push through it. That's why, like, and I know it sucks for me sometimes and it screws me up sometimes, but like, you know, that's why sometimes if I had been long there and I saw the iceberg, I might not puke right away just
Said,
because
I've noticed the same thing, Seth.
They tend to get filled. It's like the market knows that until this big player gets what he wants, the market's not going to go anywhere. So they might as well just give it to him now. And then type that in chat again to maybe try and clarify.
Tucker said 15K by 10s and now only 16 contracts by 105? Very strange.
And now back up 2 ticks. Wow. Not sure what to think of that. So I think what is going to happen now is, well, okay, so first of all, it was at 10.5, right?
Tucker said got a bid in at 10s again to feel it out.
We're going to use
Tucker said probably going to yank it though.
I think what is going to happen now that we have, was it 2 ticks? Where did I get filled? No, I got filled at 0.95. It was right here that the iceberg happened, right? It was at 10. Let me double check it. We talked about it, that 12K at 10. Okay, so it was. Okay, so we're up 2 ticks. So I think what happens now is the market tries to push against the iceberg to see if the trader starts puking. And if he doesn't, then it could give us another short, essentially. So we could get from 10, I think we could see, oh, and look, what do you know? There's an order right there. We could get 12, right? Now, but look at what's happening in CF.
Tucker said Jigsaw has a little bid/ask profile you can stick on the side of the ladder. Helps me keep prices and volume straight.
Oh yeah, you mean like the extra ones that's like only bid volume and only ask volume? Yeah. I normally mark them like right when I see them. I guess I've kind of gotten out of that habit.
Tucker said.
Yeah. You know, I kind of took everything off that I didn't find like immediately useful, and mostly just because I don't have enough screen real estate. I mean, I would if I actually had the font sizes like normal, because I have it at like 18 and the default is like 10 or 12. But I want people watching the video to be able to see it, so. And it's crazy that, I said, wow, with a 12K iceberg, maybe I should pull it. But then I said, no, that's not the trade. The trade that I've back tested is only for 1 tick. And just because something else has happened in there, I don't necessarily want to change my trade. And I'm trying to be cautious. And it really paid off, didn't it? And that one I feel really good about, because this is something that I back tested really extensively a long time ago, and the only reason I stopped doing it was because it stopped happening. And it was very much based on being able to get filled on both sides, and at the time I was always looking to see that it just had to have completely cleared to do it. But so to take that trade and do it with a live account and actually prove that I got filled on both sides feels really great.
Heath said I have those on mine as well, and I let it run all day. I like using them for low volume areas and areas that are big imbalance areas. The market likes to fill in those big imbalance spots.
Interesting. Well, we have quite the interesting setup here now because somebody sold 12K at 10. They are underwater 2 ticks. And in the meantime, ZF is at the high of the session in cumulative delta. There was significant around 6,000 contracts long there in ZF, completely unwound and then extended what was going on here. So people went short at 12. Essentially, people went short at 12. It came down, and then people went long, but there was also somebody that went short. Somebody that went short here. So, I mean, you have a lot of orders that could stop out if we move up.
Diswave said, I just took those off Sierra because of screen real estate. Smiling face with open mouth and smiling eyes.
Oh yes, I have to take the kids to school. But that's okay because I already made my profit. So you're leaving right now?
Yes, I have to go. I love you.
Okay, I love you too. Bye-bye.
8:30.
You're right.
And do you think you can take Abby's posters to school tomorrow? She's too embarrassed to take.
Heat said, yeah,
I think so.
I know what you mean.
Okay.
I mean, you should just make her take it today, but...
Well, she's embarrassed, but you can ask her again if she'll take it.
Well, good kids. I find that amusing. So, kind of a little bit of background on that. So, my wife is from Texas.
Diswave said, I think I'll add them back and cascade my DOMs. I'm not really into reading 4 DOMs at once yet anyway.
So which... anyways, so my wife is from Texas, and like the middle of effing nowhere, Texas, right? Like it's on the Gulf Coast, and it's a town of like, 1,000 people, or, in the thousands, is maybe like 5,000, I think. Oh yes, okay, well, whatever. And so not only did she live in a small town, but she was homeschooled. So, like her parents bought the course materials from this company, and they would give you tests and everything. And she went to college afterwards, and so it seems like she got a pretty good education from it, but she was homeschooled. So, my wife does not understand some of the, how vicious kids can be. You know what I mean? So, when the kids say things like, I'd be too embarrassed to do this, because it used to be that they would want to do things, and I'm like, I don't know if socially that's a good idea. And now it seems like they're catching on. I know that's a weird thing to talk about, but, I had a good trade there and whatever. So Dave K says, I told you so. I'm assuming that's because Verge is still down, yeah? Let's look at it. I haven't even looked at it. No. I want to look at it on Bittrex. Let's look at it on Bittrex. No, I forgot to turn the cam off. I should get a new cam. I was looking at this Razer has this new one, and it's got like lights on it, and I think that would look nice, and it would be a much better quality. But I'm actually thinking again, because the kid behind me, he also likes to record stuff. Although I won't tell you where he is on YouTube at this time, because he's still let's just say he's still working on the production quality. Right? Oh, Bittrex is taking forever to load. What's with that? Hmm. Hmm. Top story on Reddit right now is Trump claims he didn't fire Comey because of Russia investigation. So if that was a spread trade at 10, and that's interesting that it did not. Well, so here's where it occurred. Here's where it occurred. So there's the long volume. So there's not that many people long, but yeah. So look, here's an iceberg in CF now. And it's a pretty big one as well. Did it load? Okay, here we go. It loaded. So now I can look at the markets and I can look at Verge. I don't know. Okay. So it's still lower. For sure. So I think we're gonna have to conclude that the market did not like the announcement. I think what is going on in Verge is that is a story of unrealistic expectations, because when they said we have a big partner, I'm sitting here thinking, okay, if I was in charge of the currency and I had Pornhub was my partner, you know, what would I say to people, and how would I, you know, how would I have tried to manage it? And I think I would have said pretty similar things. I think I would have said, you know, we have a really big partner and it could potentially make us a top 5 cryptocurrency. Because I went and did the math yesterday when I got into work, and my chart, for some reason, my Verge chart is measured in Bitcoins in dollars. But it, so I had to do a little bit of math to figure out what the exact price was. But where fair value has been in the past in Verge appears to be at 15 cents. And we're like 7 or 8 right now, right? So indicator says that there could be some room to grow. And then I started looking at, well, what if this actually does increase usage? What different market caps could we get to? So at like 20 cents, you're like equal to Monero. And at 40 cents, you're starting to get like above Bitcoin at that point, which probably not going to happen, right? So I'm all looking at valuations on the subreddit, and there's all these people that are saying like, oh, for sure it's going to go to 50 cents or $1 now. No. Like, you guys realize it would be the largest cryptocurrency, market cap cryptocurrency in the world by far at 50 cents. Probably not going to happen. So I'm kind of looking at where is people looking at, and a lot of people thought when they said, oh, this could make it a top 5 cryptocurrency or something like that, they thought that it was going to be a partnership with a payer like eBay or what is this online payment thing, PayPal. They thought it was going to be like a PayPal or an eBay or something, which I'm kind of looking back at now, and I'm like, well, yeah, that was a little ridiculous to expect. So it looks to me like there's a lot of people that were only playing the news and sold on the news, absolutely expected, and it looks like that was probably the majority of the move. But then nobody really wanted to get in afterwards because they thought, well, you could already buy stuff with cryptocurrencies on Pornhub, and it looks like it's like, you know, this is just an advertisement. Like, this is just an advertisement, and it won't significantly affect Verge in the future. Now, I'm not so sure if that's true, because they do seem to have like a partnership with, what is the name of the company? Mindfreak? So I think that there might be more in the future, but that's going to be the big tell, right? If we get more in the future from them, like another commercial or something, then I think that you could see higher. But my argument is still that based on the amount that transacts on the blockchain, Verge is undervalued. And if it gets to 15 is where I'd want to get out. Now, Dave is right that I could have sold and bought back in at a lower price. That looks to be true, but based on the amount that I have, it's like 10 cents or something like that. I think overall yesterday I lost $1. And when you consider where it could have, you know, where I think I could have possibly have gotten out. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, pretty strong move up in ZB and pretty strong buy volume in ZF. Market disagrees on Verge. Who cares? More is more. Yeah, if it's I don't know. To me, I feel like that. I mean, I think that this is probably something I need to get over. I just don't like to make a lot of moves in cryptocurrency, as I'm like, every time that I trade it, that's a potentially taxable event and commissions and stuff. But then you realize that like actually the commissions on it don't really matter. And the amount that you could make potentially by swinging it is way more than you could potentially lose. But I think that I just kind of have that mentality because, you know, in bonds here, we have to be really careful about where we get in and out at, you know. Dave needs a pat on the back again. He told you so, Seth. But Dave is right. It is down after the news the day after. So the market does not seem to like the news, even though I thought it was a pretty good partner. But I think that the caveat there is that the market doesn't really see this as a real partnership. They see this as like a one-time advertising deal that we paid $1.4 million for or something like that. So yeah, you have to remember crypto is a speculative market. News moves the currency up, post news moves the currency down. Yeah. Well, and I think to your point, what is the probability now that in Verge this completely unwinds? You know? And there have certainly been some cryptocurrency trades, like with that Cia coin, where it was moving up on a temporary thing, and I should have sold all of it, and I could have, times 10'd my holdings, but I didn't. I only got rid of a quarter of it. I think in a situation like that, it's kind of a hard call, because you have like your trade and the reasons you took it and your targets, and then that trade goes on for so long, and then the market suddenly says, well, something else is going on, you know? And so I feel like I should stick to my trade and I should wait for 15. But the market might have something else in mind. I think certainly for historical, like, how good is the strategy purposes, I think that it would be better to hold it. And another thing, so two more things I want to say about the Bitcoins. So the first one is that I don't really feel like the move down was that bad, I mean, we're still above where we were basically last week. The 8th was last Sunday. So, like, it really does look like it was the people that were long in it. And those middling bonds in their highs. When your edge is working, you got to push it. When it's not, you pull the plug as quickly as possible. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it was working. I mean, with this kind of action, it's not necessarily like my edge is over. I have to say, that was the highest volume we ever saw in Verge. And it was a sell. And you compare that to the previous one, the highest volume that we ever had in Verge was a buy. But it was a what do you call it? Crescendo buying? I don't know. But I think it's going to go to, I don't think it has to go as high as this. I think it goes to like there. So there's that. So the other thing about Bitcoins though, okay, and this is more interesting and more helpful to you guys, okay? Because really in Verge we're talking about $10 or something like that. So okay, we need to pull this out a little bit. Okay, yeah, now you can see it. So do you see this right here? Look at what happened in Bitcoin. We had a move down and it pushed to 7,900 and then it came back up. So what happened was, and you don't really see a change. Well, you did, it's kind of did the opposite here in the buys, but basically it was, once again, it was margin moving it, and a bunch of people put on some shorts and then they got wiped out. So what does this, and the thing that's really interesting about it was we got this and I saw it yesterday, and then I just kind of monitored it, and I was seeing this, and I was actually watching the tape at the time. They were having a hard time moving lower. So here again, it appears that Bitcoin is massively overvalued. Okay, so here you can see where we're at in the total longs, and 4/12 was the big trend in Bitcoins, wasn't it? Yes, it was. Okay. We are overvalued, but there are not enough longs to push it lower still. So that's kind of an interesting setup, because my indicator just says based on pure value what it should be worth. But when we look at the order flow, essentially, the order flow says that it can't do it yet. So I still believe that we could get a move to 9,000 because of that. But beware, if we get another strong buy like we had on the 12th, okay, I'm getting out. Because I think what's going to happen is you get that move, you get to 9K, then that's going to be like 2 pretty big buys in a row.
Block buy.
Wow. So where was the block buy at? 125. So still not quite where I could buy it. Anyways, you get 2 buys in a row. That's going to be where people are going to go, okay, maybe it's safe to buy it now. And then you're going to have the people that are necessary to be able to take Bitcoin to its where it should go. Now, the one caveat that we're going to have to recalculate, and I should do that now because we do have to take the kids to school, and I want to be able to just stop when we need to stop. There is a possibility that that lower end is moved up. Let's see what it is. $97.50 is where the next high is. 5 times 50 is 32. Okay, so it's still down there. I was going to say there is a possibility that when we get down there that enough volume has come into the blockchain that the lower end is no longer 3 and that it's above 6. But at the moment, it looks to me like we're going to get A strong push up head fake. Head fake. Okay, so now I'm going to read your comments. Looks like a potential cup and handle at this point. There was a news story that broke where one wallet sold 100 million in Bitcoin last night. Really? If you could find that, I would appreciate it. If I was going to sell a lot of Bitcoin, that move up would have been a good way to do it. But at the moment, you know, did we really get longs here? The data mesh says not really. We're kind of where we were before. So I think that this is just push lower failure. Now they have to test the other way. Oh, right, you can't post links. Well, you can post it in the Discord if you have that. But I'm just going to pull up Reddit here and see if I see anything about it on Reddit. Oh yeah, so another thing that I think is interesting is yesterday I was like at 395 or something, and now I'm at 414, even though I lost on the Verge. And oh, it's actually $8. Yeah, I guess when I looked at it, it was only $1, and I guess I just oh, but it's because of the different exchanges. That's why. Anyways, so what is happening? Well, Bitcoin Cash is taking a run. Ethereum, I don't think is, right? Where's my Ethereum? There it is. There's the Ethereum. So what's my read on that? Bitcoin dominance is decreasing. I think what you could see is, once again, you're going to have a strong move up. The altcoins appear to be moving more on this move up than Bitcoin. I mean, they've been doing this for quite some time now. So that's definitely going to bring the Bitcoin dominance down. And then you're going to see that push lower. And it's going to be ugly. The problem is that Bitcoin, you know, it really reaches like the end of the whole thing around between 2 and 4K. Like there's a spot at 4 and there's a spot at 2. But Bitcoin Cash and Ethereum are already at their spots. So what happens if we get a huge move down and Bitcoin Cash and Ethereum don't really puke very hard with it? Now you have a setup where the next move up you could flip. So we keep on saying, you know, is there ever going to be a flippening? And I was saying, well, we'd have to have a you know, the head fake first and all that. And I mean, we had one head fake that I missed. Now it looks like we're going to have another head fake. And the last head fake, the Bitcoin dominance did not change. It actually increased. If the Bitcoin dominance increases through this head fake, then I think that a flippening is truly within the cards at that point. And I'm sure some of you might disagree with that. Yeah. When someone talks certainties, so I don't know if I was careful with my language there. So understand, though, with when we're talking Bitcoin, we don't really have enough historical background about how Bitcoin behaves to really claim probabilities here, do we? Although it does look like our system is able to predict what it's going to do fairly well. Anyways, oh, okay. Yeah, I could have had kept that $10. So I'm sure that a lot of people would be like, well, you know, Bitcoin dominance going down, that's not going to happen because they really believe in Bitcoin. But one of the problems that I see in the community today is that the group of people that I remember, you know, from the Mount Gox days and afterwards, and the people that stuck with it through all of that, and I've just kind of been watching them on their subreddit. Those people were the people that went to r/BTC. They saw the censorship, and that right away turned them off. And these are the group of people that went to Bitcoin Cash. And when you look at Bitcoin in this most recent run, what is that? These are newer traders. And so what I see is that the Bitcoin Cash has a more dedicated community that, and ergo increases the probability of a flippening during a bear market. That makes sense. I don't think it could happen during a bull market, because during a bull market, people are going to buy the leader. Who does Bitcoin Cash have for development? That's a really good question. So there was a number of developers that, oh, we're having another sell, and I'm tempted to sell it, but I feel like it's been here long enough, and I have to do other things, and I'd rather just talk and rather than risk my money. So I made 4, right? Yeah, I made 4. That's good. Anyways, there was a number of developers that weren't on with the whole big Blockstream stuff that left and have moved over into Bitcoin Cash. And then there was, like, I forget the name of the project. It was like Bitcoin XT or something like that. It was one of those projects from a long time ago that had a bunch of Bitcoin developers that left but didn't really go anywhere. And what else was there? That's interesting. That iceberg seemed to have stopped things. This is a volatile trade developing here in Xeon. Yeah, anyways, so my understanding is that when you look at actual, like, number of high-level developers, there's actually more working on Bitcoin Cash than there are working on Bitcoin. Now, the thing is I don't really know, other than the Lightning Network, I'm not quite sure what the Bitcoin developers are working on. And then Bitcoin Cash, I think they've got, like, the change to a 32, like, they're just going to remove the upper limit of the block size entirely, I think. And then, yeah, let's find that. Who are the developers? They were asking for proof of, you know, who their developers were. Did they get rid of the search bar on this subreddit? Yeah, they did. Boo. Oh, here we go. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, it was Bitcoin Unlimited. So the Bitcoin Unlimited. So here's one they had 4 months ago. I'm just going to show you on the subreddit. I'm just searching developers. So Bitcoin Unlimited, these guys are on board. Maybe we can just search Google. Who supports the complete list? Oh, this would be interesting. That wasn't actually developers. That was like wallets and websites. Who are the developers? Here we go. Yeah. So this is where I was saying that, that they said this in that subreddit. It seems to me that the most ardent supporters of Bitcoin in the early days are generally the most ardent supporters of Bitcoin Cash. So, like, the thing that I would say, that the way that I would explain it is that there's more like individuals actively working in Bitcoin Cash than there is in Bitcoin, but they are not as, they're probably not committing as much, and it's much more decentralized and disorganized, is how I would put it. But I don't know enough about specific individuals that I'm going to guess. I mean, can we look at, let's see here, Bitcoin Cash GitHub? Is it on GitHub? This is a mirror of the Bitcoin ABC. Bitcoin GitHub. So Core has 535 contributors. Oh, there's like 4 of them. 396, 345, 360, 443. So the ABC one is the biggest. So when you look at it, like overall people that have actually contributed to the repository, Bitcoin definitely has more.
Based on spread B/W the 3, I'm looking to fade whatever move ends up developing here.
Well, it would have been nice to have taken the trade a little bit earlier, wouldn't it?
ETH said went short 11.5.
Ah, well, good call. I may have taken that 11.5, but remember I said no, I'm just going to pass, didn't I? So maybe I will still pass. I guess another question would be like, how often do people make commits? But I can't really see that from the repositories, can we? Not with the way GitHub does their tools. And so I am going to post the charts. Let's get that out of the way.
Tucker said hang on though, if you're short 100 on that iceberg for 5k contracts and it prints up to 125, that's FK and $390,000 of PNL. I don't think there's any way that Mr. Iceberg would hold.
It's got to be part of a spread, yeah. Probably right. Well, I don't know actually, because well, how much was it? How many ticks was it though? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Heath said +2. ZB still far off RTH lows.
Good job, Keith, by the way. Because that, where you took that trade at, was not the easiest place to take a trade.
Tucker said I really don't think so. Unless it's a large day like last Thursday, huge players are not going to play for 5+ ticks each time. They're looking to push enormous size for 1 or 2.
Well, I'm just saying I've seen trades before where somebody took a really big position. Often it was Tyler just buying 5,000 at a time, and then I've seen it go 5 or 6 ticks against them and then come back to where they were, and then it really went. So I would not be the least bit surprised if somebody went short here and they're still short. But I also think that because it was 12K, that it was much more likely to have been a spread trade. I'm just not sure what the other side of the trade is. You can see here there was all this buying in ZF, and we flattened.
Tucker said I think their risk manager is going to scream at them if they put size on and let it run $500,000 against them.
It can happen. You can move up and flatten. But generally speaking, the more you flatten, the more likely we are to go down. So look at the chart. I don't know. I kind of feel funny because I see something developing and it looks big, and yet I don't really care to take a position. I'm not like chomping at the bit for it.
Tucker said exactly, and here's where I agree. The huge trades have got to be hedges or spreads, and likely the resultant P&L is +/2 or 3 ticks from the large size. Granted, I've never seen a large.
I've never seen a large trader trade, but I think it would be absolutely silly for them to put on 10,000 and then wait for ZN to run 8 ticks. I don't know. Well, so here's the thing, Tucker. Let's back up a little bit. Here's how I see it. We started here at 6:30 or so, right? So they could have gotten short at 120, and it goes down. Somebody takes 12K. Maybe it's the same person. He comes back up. Like they might not have.
Alligator said not over IMO. ZF at S1 doesn't seem to attract buyers, except a small iceberg without impact. ZT at lot again, short end leads is theme of the day. Agree W Seth, looks like bear.
Looks like bear flattening to me needs equities to break support. Yeah. Oh yeah, so what is the E-mini been doing? E-mini has been ranging since the open. But yeah, I mean, just the fact that we started up here to begin with, and this was just a lower high pivot, you know? I don't know what the deal, you know, we can't know for sure what the deal was there at 100, but let's just say that it was a spread trade. If it was a spread trade, 5 ticks is nothing, you know? If it's a spread trade, I'm looking for like half a point or more at least for a long-term spread trade like that, I think. So, that's why I'm like, you know, look at the changes in Delta. I'll pull this one over. Let's just look at it on the jigsaw charts, okay? Here's where it happened in the Vista chart, right? Here's where it happened, where we went down and we had the big change. And what has happened since then? Well, there was a little buy, there was a little sell. And the change is maybe 4,000 contracts. It's not. It really didn't change that much. Now look at how much it changed in ZF. They actually bought 20,000 contracts and then came down and made a new low. And on the new low, it still hasn't come off. So, I mean, that's a huge divergence that just, I think, plays in favor of the bears, but if
Tucker
they can
said
get below
what
10.
I mean is if it's a spread, as ZB or ZN ticks up or down, the 15.625 per tick is probably more like $6 a tick or $2 a tick depending on the spread sensitivity.
Yes. So here's how you calculate that actually, or here's how I calculate that. So it's much easier than that. The spread, a full point on the spread is the same thing as like a full point in ZN. So, well, of the larger one. So a full point is basically $500 in FYT. So where did we come from? We were at 100.89. Now we're at 100.87. So a tenth of that. So really on one contract, it's maybe $50. But the thing that's interesting about it is that this guy, even though he technically lost on this one, well, I don't know which way he took it. Man, that's weird because this was buying. So we would have to say that he was selling ZF. So I think we'd have to say that it was a knob spread trade to go along with this theory. I'm not saying it was, but just to walk through this particular scenario. Okay, so here's the knob spread. So we were at around 215.64. Now we're 47. So let's say that that's 0.2. So $200 per contract. But he went short in this one and he went long in this one. So even though this moved up 4 ticks against him, the spread trade was still profitable. It was still profitable by $200 per contract. Which if it was 12, then, and it's 3-to-1, so that means that it was 4,000 contracts long. So 4,000 and add 2 twos to it, he made $400,000. And he's still in profit and he can let it ride. I think that may be what happened. Although I also have to wonder, what caused these? Was that him legging into the other side of it? And why is the delta in ZF overall buying? That's the thing that I can't explain. If I said that this is a spread trade and we're flattening, then why is ZF overall buying? I can't explain that. You tend to get good moves off of spreads though.
Tucker said could be ES cracked lows.
Could be. Good point. E-mini doesn't look happy. guys. I was gonna have to check back on the comments. Oh, look at the mouthpieces. Who's the major mouthpiece for Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash? Andreas Antonopoulos and Roger Ver, respectively. I've watched both sides tonight. It does Roger. Well, Roger's, it's not. Roger doesn't seem to be a PR guy for sure, right? He said some dumb things. I don't know. So let me type this. The only thing I can say is, I mean, if I can show you here. Where is it? Ah, here it is.
Dave said I am +4 in my sim trading, one short and one long. Shrug. Of course it's sim mentality, but
Okay, so all I can say is look at the fucking chart, dude. Something is happening with the Bitcoin dominance. Something crazy is happening with the Bitcoin dominance. Now we could still have something like, you know, zoop zoop and zoop zoop, but that candle right there, that candle indicates to me that something's going on.
Heath said nice job, Dave.
That's all I can really say about that.
Dave said Ty, you too.
But, you know, I was just kind of going back through the other things to kind of explain, well, why might it actually flip? And those are kind of some of the that's kind of my main hypothesis, is that the Bitcoin Cash supporters appear to be more engaged. They've been here longer. They're more likely to hold. So if it flips, I think that's going to be what wins it out. But I can't say for sure that it's going to flip, but something's definitely happening. Okay, let me type this up here.
Dave said the super long queues at each tick really make this a different game. Easy to get left behind. But the flip side is it moves so slowly. Dave said, Noob Reflections.
Okay, there we go. Finished writing my notes. So I wanted to see here who said, Dave says I am +4, one short and one long. Of course, it's the same mentality, but the super long queues at each tick really make this a different game, easy to get behind, but the flip side is it moves so slowly.
IQ said anyone long ZB? Dave said right on. Like ES even?
Oh yeah. ES is a great instrument to trade.
Dave said, or is that too crazy? Smiling face with open mouth and smiling eyes. Dave said, does the skill translate? Heath said, agree Seth. Wish I would have just started with ZN.
Well, there was that opportunity to go short it at 12, and it could have taken another 4 ticks. And frankly, he could have turned around, bought 10.5 when that 3K went through there, and probably made another 1 to 3 ticks there. But I'm actually really glad that I didn't trade it. So I'd have to say that overall I had a really good day. I mean, I think I got the best of both worlds. I saw a trend developing and I went short and I caught that one, but then I also saw the other side that I've been having trouble with this whole week, where, you know, there just wasn't enough.
IQ said use Pat's price action trading system.com.
Yeah. There just wasn't enough to break it down into a new low, and so I took a profit there, and then I was able to see a spot where I could take a 1 ticker. You know, it was probably the best trading I've done in weeks, aside from those trends. But you know, I'm just really good at trends, so you can't necessarily say when I get a trend and I get +8, did I do really great? No. If I had done really great that day, I would have gotten +16, frankly, but I digress. It was just an okay. Yeah, you did good on a range day, exactly. So I'm really happy with myself. Hoping that, you know, this means that we're turning it around. So what were they? So what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, IQ mentioned price action. Yeah, price action I think is something important to look at in the E-mini. I mean, the thing with the E-mini, if I can pull it over here. I don't know if Dave is watching, but I can look at the video later if he wants. Now just link it, but ES really pivots, you know. And it can be really super effing random, right? Like if you got in here and you could say, oh, okay, that was the pivot, and so I want to short it. And then you kind of got some, but then it went against you. And then maybe you got out there and then it went down, right? So if this kind of stoppy action really messes with you, and frankly, that's kind of what it does for me, then the ES can be a really difficult instrument to trade, right? But then you get things like this yesterday. We kind of felt like, hey, we could go higher, and it took it a long time for it to do it, but
Dave
it
said,
did.
Yup, I'm watching.
Oh, okay, good. So we kind of felt like it was going to go, and it did, and it went, you know. So it's like what, 1250 a tick? I think that, so I remember that 4 ticks was $1,000 if I had had it, but it was 250. 4 ticks is 250, and we got like 8, and then if you held on for even more, you could have gotten more than that. So I mean, in the E-mini, you can easily make $1,000 on one trade. If you're just playing, like say you're playing the range here, and you buy it here, and then it happens to break out and you just hold it, then what do you know? You can have $1,000 trade. But, and here's the big but with the E-mini, because really the E-mini is the most popular by far for day traders. But you have to have a big enough account. And like in ZN, I think you could make do. I mean, you can certainly do it with 1,500, although that's really cutting it dangerous. I'd say 3,000 if you know what you're doing and you have some experience under your belt, like a year of sim trading, then you could make it with 3,000 in ZN. But 5 is really like safe. For the E-mini, you're gonna have, you know, in the tens of thousands. I wouldn't even know. I mean, it'd have to be a lot. So that's the problem with the E-mini. So, and
IQ said ZF margin $250.
Yeah. Well, so I'm not even talking about the margin. I'm just looking at like how much can you lose in a day? You know, you can make $1,000 on a trade in ES on April 17th. How much can you lose in a day like that? You know, how far do you have to go until you know that you're wrong? It could be $250, $500, and if you do that every day, you know, and I like to look at it as like you should be able to be wrong 50 times in a row and not blow out your account. So, but really the way that you do is you have to have your stats and you have to know you've traded for long enough time that you know what your drawdown is. And then you make sure that your account is large enough to easily cover multiple drawdowns. That's why I was saying like 3,000 in ZN. If my drawdown is about 500, you know, I could have a drawdown 3 or 4 times in a row and be okay. Whereas if with a $1,500 account, basically you get like 1 drawdown and then you're on the edge, which is not good. So 3 to 5 for ZN is what I would recommend. ZF, I don't know. the thing that I'd have to trade ZF to really know, because you get some swings in ZF, you know. It definitely goes more ticks. So, anyways, my mouth is all dry now. What is my account size? It started at 1,500. Was it 1,500? I think so. It's because it was at 1,500 and then I did really good and it was like a 17 and now it's like at 8. Yeah, I know, super embarrassing, but we had a really bad drawdown. So, and the commissions are more than you can expect. They flat out are no matter what. So, yeah, that's what I was saying. I started with 1,500 and yeah, it's like you get 1 drawdown and it looks like we're pulling it out and you know, we still have some room and so it's okay, but
Tucker said my favorite thing about
a little
ZN is that
nerve-wracking
action
sometimes.
happens at 1 or 2 prices. It's easy to see when you know what you're looking for. ES basically had a 3 to 5 tick range where action develops,
making the read much tougher. Yeah. The thing I find really interesting about the E-mini is you'll see it'll only take like 70, 50 to 100 to trade up. Okay, so we're getting 170s here. And then you're going to run into a spot where, like Tucker said, between 3 prices, you start seeing like 4 and 300 sprint. So here in the E-mini, this particular thing that tells you how much it took to clear the price ends up being now you kind of realize, oh, that's why they programmed it that way, because we can set it up in CF, ZN, whatever we got to do to change it. But because they programmed it the way that they did, you can also do this with it, and that's really useful. But then you still have to consider when it goes back and forth, and that's when adding those other columns that show the bid-ask volume profile that you can reset at any time is really useful. And then, of course, this Vista chart, really, where is it? Oh, do I not have it open? It's sad. Oh, there it is right there. Okay. This Vista chart and the cumulative delta is really useful in the E-mini. We're seeing, you know, when we start to get a big change in delta, that it's pivoted and stuff. But it's still tough. Anyways, now is time for me to go, so happy about today. We'll see what happens with the page book, and we'll talk to you